Here.
Jim Sears,
Here.
Lou George,
Here.
Tori Adler.
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond. Josh Morris,
Present.
David Fields.
Also present.
So Josh, you want to make sure everyone that's, I see Attorney McCann's available. Is anyone else who's speaking tonight present?
I sent a link to several of the development teams. I believe that Attorney McCann is potentially the lead on both of them.
Okay.
So I think we're
Looks like
ready
we
to
also
proceed, if that's okay.
looks like we also have Annie Rafferty and Scott Cameron, as well as Chris Barages.
Okay. Great.
Yes.
Great. This open meeting of the Danvers Planning Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth. The governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town's website, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberation of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comments. For this meeting, the planning board is convening remotely via the Teams app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Supporting materials that have been provided to the members of this body will be shown during this transmission. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Meeting ground rules. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some basic ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comments, questions, or motion. Please hold until your name is called further. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, we have established an email address for public comment, publiccomments@danversmass.gov. This email address is shown online with the streaming of this meeting. Residents may email comments and they will be provided read out loud after staff has confirmed the name and address of the individual. All emails must contain the date and phrase planning board in the subject line. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. So let's turn to the first item on the agenda, which is 69 North Street. Request by North Street LLC for endorsement of a Form A plan to adjust the lot lines resulting in 5 lots at 69 North Street. Assessors map 15, lot 27. So I'll turn this over to Attorney McCann.
Sorry, John, I just had one comment from a comment about the logistics of the meeting, not to interrupt. I just wanted to let the board and the audience who might be watching that the channel, if people who are interested in watching on TV, the channel to watch the planning board meeting currently right now is the educational channel Comcast 8 and Verizon channel 37. It was just a different channel than we are generally on. I just wanted to let everyone know in the public. So I'll turn it over to Attorney McCann. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, board members. It's good to be with you tonight. My name is Nancy McCann. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, North Street Development LLC. With me tonight is the manager of the LLC, John Hernandez. Also with me tonight is Chris Barages of Williams & Barages, who prepared the plan. And this is an A&R plan relative to the property at 69 North Street. The board may recall that back in October of last year, the board saw an A&R plan and endorsed that plan, creating 6 buildable lots on North Street. Since that time, the property has been sold and purchased by the applicant, North Street Development LLC, and we're presenting to you tonight an A&R plan that changes the lot lines of those A&R lots that you saw back in October, creating 5 rather than 6 buildable lots. The area and frontage requirements for the property, which is located in the R3 zoning district, are provided in the project narrative for each of the 5 lots. Each of the lots has more than or exactly the required frontage on North Street of 150 feet, and all have greater than the required lot area in the R3 zoning district. So we do meet the requirements under Chapter 41, Section 81P for the endorsement of the A&R plan. And I'll turn it over to Chris Baragis, who can just walk you through the plans. It's, I think, pretty straightforward, and we can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Nancy. Chris Baragis from the Engineering and Survey Office of Williams and Baragis. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, thank you. As Nancy explained nicely, we are proposing to re-subdivide the subject property. The total area on the parcel is approximately 9.84 acres, and we're taking the existing A&R plan, which was put on record showing 6 lots, and turning it into 5. So the lot shapes have changed quite a bit, as you can see on the A&R plan before you. Lot 1 is a rather large lot at over 301,000 square feet, with requisite frontage of approximately 304 feet or so along North Street. Lot 2 contains the existing homestead, which has an address of number 69 North Street, and that lot has more than 30,000 square feet and more than 150 linear feet of frontage along the right-of-way of North Street. And then lots 3, 4, and 5 are all shown as potential single-family house lots with areas over 30,000 square feet. And if you walk along the frontage of North Street for lot 3, and you were to add the 8151 in the 6904, we come up with greater than 150. And then similarly for lot 4, when you combine the 2 line segments, the longer one, that's 14501, and the shorter one at 499, we have the 150 feet of frontage there for lot 4. And then finally for lot 5, we have just over the 150 feet of frontage required for that building lot. The center line for North Street is shown. It's obviously a variable width public way with an unusual shape. And we've also shown some interior walls and an existing drainage easement that runs through the property. That's pretty much it. On the plan, it's pretty straightforward, but Nancy and I are here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Tori, why don't we start with you tonight?
Sure. My only question, lot 1 seems like a very odd shape. What is that going to be very limiting in the future, or is there a plan?
There is not currently a plan. It is a large lot, and I suppose one could purchase the entire lot and do an estate type of lot on it, or it may be subject to another plan that might come before you in the future.
All right. I don't have any other questions.
Lou?
Oh, sorry. Just a question, sort of just following up, just in terms of the sort of the size of the lot. I'm just looking at the plan again here, and so so lot 1 does go. I can see that it extends, really beyond sort of the back of lot 3, 4, and 5. Is that area just not, is that wetland, or is it, or it's not?
No,
The vast majority of the property on lot 1 is upland area. There's a very small wetland out in the back. If you were to follow the 20-foot wide drainage easement that runs
Okay.
from North Street to the rear property line, and you head towards the rear property line of lot 1, there is a small wetland area there, but the vast majority of lot 1 is upland.
Understood. Okay. Okay, very good. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
So Attorney McCann, you're saying there's no plan whatsoever for lot 1 right now?
There are plans being considered, but what we wanted to do was get the lot line adjustments, which we're here to do tonight, and then I would anticipate that we would be meeting with planning staff in the near future to discuss lot 1.
Okay. So there are plans to develop lot 1 is what you're saying?
There
Or
is
not
a-
saying?
No, I'm saying that there isn't a plan that is prepared that's been presented. We're going to work with planning staff. It's anticipated that that may occur in the future.
Mhm. Okay, that's all I have, John.
Thank you, Jim. Peg?
I don't have any further questions. Everybody's asked my questions.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I had the same curiosity of lot 1, the way it was designed too. So I think we got a pretty good feel what's going to happen. So I'll entertain a motion. Well, first of all, is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on this matter? Josh, David, do we have anyone that wanted to speak?
Does not appear there's anyone attending, and we didn't receive any email.
That's
Okay.
right.
So I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move that we close the public hearing on 69 North Street.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Is that you, Tori?
That was me. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so roll call vote to close the public hearing. Tori?
Yes.
Lou?
Yes.
Peg?
Yes,
Jim?
Yes.
And I support the closing of the public hearing. Now, is there a motion to approve the plan as presented by the applicant?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second,
Okay, roll call vote. Tori?
Yes.
Lou?
Yes.
Peg?
yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And I'm in favor as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Just before we move on,
Yeah.
sorry.
David, did you-
Yeah,
No.
due to logistics, we're up against a constructive approval deadline. We were wondering if the board would vote to authorize the planning director to endorse this Mylar on the board's behalf, and that it has to go to the registry as soon as possible.
I support that. I mean, logistically, there's any concerns by the board? Hearing none, do you need a formal motion to do that, David?
We would need a vote for you to do that. However, if anyone's uncomfortable, obviously say so now.
Okay, so is there a motion to allow the planning staff to sign the appropriate plan for recording?
What's the reason for it, David? I'm sorry.
Due to when the plan was submitted, we have a 21-day turnaround for A&Rs. So this has to get to the registry ASAP, given when it was submitted. We actually have an extension to get it in by Friday, but logistically, it's going to be tough to get all the signatures signed before then. We wanted to ensure that it doesn't become constructively approved without your endorsement.
But they still have to record it.
Yes, yeah, it would just, we need the endorsement of either the board or the staff. It's authorized in your book, in your bylaw. It's just we would need an official vote to allow it.
Okay. I know Josh is bringing plans around tomorrow, so couldn't we sign that tomorrow when he comes with the other plans to sign? The street acceptance plans?
You certainly could. If that's how we want to do it, that's fine. I was just trying to cover all of our bases just in case we couldn't get 3 of you lined up to get it signed.
Well, I'm home tomorrow. So,
I'm available too, so
I am as well.
So,
I'm available as well.
so if, from the logistics, Josh, it's just a matter of you
Yep.
coordinating, getting us to sign, and I would assume there's a second plan maybe, or something else.
I have several plans. John, before the meeting started, I was just speaking with a couple members. We have several plans from the engineering division about streets that are being accepted as public ways.
Okay.
And they asked if I could coordinate with the group to sign. There's 4 other plans. I think why we were requesting the potential is we just weren't sure. It was kind of, I guess, a backup in case we couldn't make it happen, but it appears that we likely could get all the signatures, but whatever the board feels comfortable doing, I'm open to tomorrow and Thursday, reaching out, coordinating with everyone. It does appear that we probably would get the minimum of 3 signatures, but if that's the will of the board, I think we're open. We just wanted to ensure that.
Sure. No, I get it.
No,
I get it. I guess since logistically we're all here,
Okay.
and committed to do it, why don't we just do the traditional way? I mean, I
Okay.
think that worked out pretty well during the pandemic.
Sure.
Okay. Excellent. The next item is 64 Holton Street, request for special permit in a minor modification to a previously approved site plan submitted by the Thompson Companies LLC for property at 64 Holton Street pursuant to section 17.8.3, 17.8.7, 17.8.21, in section 4 of the zoning bylaw. Said property is Industrial 1 in Tapleyville Overlay Zoning District. The applicant is proposing to convert the existing office building to mixed use, Assessors Map 50, Lot 193. So I'll turn that over to the applicant, and I believe that's Attorney McCann, correct?
Mr. Chairman, I got to recuse myself on this one,
Okay, Jim.
just to let you know.
All right, thank you very much. Again, my name is Nancy McCann, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, the Thompson Companies LLC. With me tonight is John Thompson. Also with me tonight is the project engineer, Scott Cameron. And we are requesting a multifamily special permit as well as a minor modification of a previously approved site plan relative to the redevelopment, reuse of the property located at 64 Holton Street. As the board knows, this property has been in existence for quite some time. It was approved originally back in the late 1980s, and it is a 4-story office building. It has been most recently occupied by North Shore Arc and is owned by the nonprofit North Shore Heritage Association, Inc., and they are looking to divest themselves of this property so that they can continue on with their mission that I think the board is well familiar with, the good works that they do. The applicant is the contract purchaser for this property, and the proposal is to reuse the existing building for a mixed use, providing a commercial use or uses on the first floor of the building. This property, again, has been an office building on all 4 floors, so it would remain a commercial use, either office or personal service type of uses on the first floor. And then on the upper 3 floors, the second, third, and fourth floor would be used for residential purposes, with 3 units on each floor for a total of 9 units. These are 2-bedroom units each. And they fit very nicely, as you saw in the floor plans that were submitted, into this existing building. We are working entirely within the existing building. There is no addition proposed to the building at all. We're simply doing interior renovations only to the building itself. This is consistent with the purpose and intent of the Tapleyville Overlay District. This property is located in the Tapleyville District as well as the Industrial 1 District. The purpose of, again, Tapleyville is to promote the opportunity for local small and medium-sized businesses that can be integrated with compact housing. serving as a transitional zone. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're taking this office building, keeping the mixed use office or small business type of use on the first floor, and then using the upper 3 floors for 2-bedroom residential units. Under the Tapleyville zoning district, we do need a special permit from the planning board, which is what we're seeking tonight, because there are more than 4 units of residential proposed. And we are also requesting the special permit relative to the square footage of reuse of the first floor. And then we do need to seek a minor modification of the previously approved site plan because of the change of use that's being proposed. So those are the items that are before the board tonight. With regard to the special permit uses, we are proposing again to maintain the commercial use on the first floor with a mix of either office or personal service or a combination. And under the bylaw, if we exceed 2,500 square feet of either of those uses, we need a special permit. So we're seeking the special permit to give us the most flexibility for tenanting that commercial space on the first floor for either office or personal service or a combination. This building is vacant, as the board may be aware, and it's been vacant for quite some time, and it's deteriorating some if you went out and you've seen the building. So this will be a good reuse. The third special permit. So again, there's 2 special permits, one for either the office or the personal service or the combination of the 2. And then we're seeking the special permit under subsection 21 of the bylaw to allow 9 multifamily units, 2-bedroom units, 3 on each floor. The Board of Appeals did grant a density variance because as we do the math with 14 units per acre permitted under the bylaw, that would allow us to have 8.1 approximately units within this building. And so we went to the Board of Appeals and explained the fact that the building is there, the square footage is there, and it simply makes sense and works well on the floor plan to allow 3 units per floor. So instead of 8.1 units, we requested a density variance to allow 9 units on within the building, and the Board of Appeals did grant that variance, and you do have that before you. So the density of 9 units is permitted by the variance. You do have floor plans submitted with this application. The units are roughly 1,000 square feet each, and again, they're 2-bedroom units. We have ample parking provided on site for these units. We have the required number of parking spaces, approximately 15 parking spaces for the commercial uses on the first floor, and then 21 parking spaces for the residential units as required, which would be 2 spaces per unit plus 3 guest spaces, for a total required parking of 36 parking spaces, and we have 41 parking spaces on site. So we have the ample parking on site. The use for multifamily purposes by special permit does trigger the affordable housing requirement under the zoning bylaw. We did meet with planning staff over the last year with regard to this project, and the affordable housing component that's proposed is fully compliant with the bylaw, which requires 1 affordable unit and an additional donation of $10,000 to the Affordable Housing Fund because of the fractional unit. So I believe we are in agreement with planning staff that the affordable housing requirement is 1 affordable unit plus a donation of $10,000, and that is what we are proposing. This site itself, as Scott will go over with you, is an interesting site, and with its proximity to the rail trail, really makes this a good location for the multifamily housing. And certainly the Tackleyville zoning district was established for mixed use and to address the need for housing in this particular area of town. And so that's what this is providing. I did provide in the project narrative of the application the requirements for the special permit, which we do meet. We have provided the site plan modification application. We have requested a waiver from the community impact assessment because the building is existing and the site is existing, and we are proposing no changes, visible changes to the site. The property was designed and constructed under the prior original approved site plan, and it has been used continuously in accordance with that site plan since that time. With regard to special permits generally under the zoning bylaw, under section 30 of the bylaw, we do meet all of the requirements for a special permit under section 30, and I'll go through those requirements. The municipal water and sewer systems will not become overloaded by the by the 9 proposed 2-bedroom residential units and the continued commercial use on the first floor. The public streets shall not become overloaded by the proposed use. The value, and in fact, changing from a fully occupied office use to the proposed 9 residential uses, and the commercial use on the first floor is actually reduction in parking demand and vehicle trip demands to the site. The value of other land and buildings will not be depreciated by the proposed use, and the site is an appropriate location for the use and will not adversely affect the neighborhood. The commercial use on the first floor has been in existence for over 30 years, and the proposed 9 residential units on the upper floors are in keeping with the mixed use and the multifamily uses in the neighborhood. There is quite a mix of uses in this neighborhood, and many multifamily uses in this neighborhood, as the board is aware. There will not be an undue nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, and adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided to ensure the proper operation of the use, the structures, and the conditions, all as shown on the site plan and all as already existing on the site. Given the purposes of the Tackleyville Overlay District, the proposed mixed use of this existing building will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw. So that is the special permit application portion. We do meet the requirements for the issuance of the special permit, and we feel this is a very good and appropriate reuse of this existing property. The second portion of the application is the minor modification of the previously approved site plan. Again, we're not proposing any exterior changes to the building itself, and the building was constructed in accordance with the originally approved site plan. At this point, I think I'd like to turn it over to Scott Cameron, who can go through the site plan with you, as well as responses to department comments that we received, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Pleasure to see everyone, hopefully in person again at some point soon. My name is Scott Cameron. I'm the Vice President of the Moore and Cameron Group. We functioned as the surveyor and civil engineer for this application, specifically in putting the plan set together that you see on your screen now. I trust you can see the screen.
We can.
With the plan in front of you? Okay. And I'm glad I'm not showing the soccer scheduling web I've been browsing while I've been waiting, and I'm showing the correct thing here. So I'm just going to scroll through the plan set. Included in this, that was the cover sheet.
your relevant project information, zoning table, locus map, all the exciting stuff of the plan set. Really, the meat and potatoes comes in surveying this property because there's no site work really proposed for this project. As Attorney McCann said, this is primarily an interior and exterior shell kind of rehabilitation and renovation project. There is a little bit of site work, which I'll go through with you, but the existing conditions plan is going to tell you what the topography or the construction of the property is as it exists today. As you can see, it's put on the plan. Most of the property does consist of paved areas for the parking lot. This was associated with the office and the original build out of the site. To the west, you have the Danvers electric light parcel. There's a parking lot in the front, and there is looks like a staging area in the rear that's fenced in. To the south, you have the Danvers Rail Trail, and then across the street, you have residential single families in that area. There are 2 curb cuts in the property, again existing on each end of the property. The parking, it is a triangular shaped lot, and it was built out to fit that lot at that. And the parking was put in creatively to fit that shape. I was there today, pulling in enough spaces, testing it out myself with my truck, not having any issues. And the one thing I do like about this particular use group, where this was office, with some patrons coming to it, which may or may not be familiar with the parking layout itself, with the office first floor and the residents above, it makes it easier to get familiarity with the parking. So if any of you have kind of a parking space at home and you don't even have to look back in and out of it, that's what you get with parking lots like this. It does look unique, but it functions very well. It's very efficient. There's also mature trees that have grown in the landscape beds around the property. And actually, it does have kind of a nice aesthetic to it as you're driving around it. And I think the rehabilitation of the building will fit well to improving this property. You can see the dashed lines on the south of the property. These are contour lines. The rail trail sits about 12 to 15 feet below this property, so this is above it. And so, there's really, I don't think a lot of, because that vertical separation, there's not really a lot of interface along the rear lot line here between the two. I'm going to move ahead to the next plan. This is the site plan. This is going to show you a little bit of the site work we're doing. There's really not too much. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. First off, again, here's your zoning table, same as appears in the cover sheet, and then also your parking table. So this is the 9 homes at 2 spaces per unit, plus the guest space for every 4 to 21. And then we calculate into the office space, 3,589 square feet, very, very particular, requiring 36 parking spaces and providing 41. The landscape area calculation, again, this is existing condition. Building coverage calculation, again, existing condition. And then as far as site work on the property, really what we're detailing in this plan is we did identify both this is the snow storage areas that are being used on the rear landscape island. So the plows are coming in, pushing snow, and pushing snow. These are the logical places to put that snow. And the one thing we are going to recommend, which is illustrated in this plan, is we want to update the handicap parking spaces on the property. So they are code compliant. There's no issues horizontally. The site is relatively flat, but the loading zone for the handicap spaces is only 5 feet wide, where they do require 8 feet. You have to have one van loading zone. In this case, it would be the only loading zone, so it has to be van accessible. We're also adding in the wheel stops in the signage. There's one sign now. There should be a second sign. And what they'll do is they'll just seal coat the existing striping and restripe this line coming down to the end. We're also adding, this was a comment from the town engineer, we're adding a couple of directional signs along the back property. I'll show you that sign towards the end, but really the intent of the sign is to direct people, if they are considering doing some cliff jumping off of the slope here down to the rail trail, just to help direct them to the logical place. And I think, anybody living here is going to know, walk down the sidewalk and they turn right into the rail trail. Just so nobody's trying to be adventurous and go over that edge. So we did add that directional sign. I'll show you that at the end of the presentation. Next in the plan set is a utility plan. This is the rest of the work we're going to be doing on the property. Again, this is working with the engineering department. They asked Mr. Thompson to separate out the commercial and the residential water services so they can each have separate meters. This is a water and sewer regulation requirement. So what these plans outline is the limit of work, which is really the striping effort, and then also trenching in and installing 2 new utility services for the domestic use of each of the 2 use categories in the building. So there would be trenching, there would be temporary stockpiling of that material. They need new material to backfill for these services. You bring in sand, remove the stuff you can't backfill with, and we detailed where that stockpile is going to be in the plan with appropriate erosion controls shown again on the plan. And then I just want to direct your attention to the sign. Again, it's just a directional sign just to help with, if somebody is new to the property, just to direct them there. And they might not, maybe they don't even know about the rail trail. Just to on site as you're parking and seeing it, you say, oh, hey, there's a rail trail. There it is. And the rest of the construction details. So again, the site work on this is very limited. Most of my work was on the survey and the coordinating with the engineering department. You may have seen, and Josh was very diligent in staying on top of all parties to make sure we got these back to you in pretty quick turnaround. A letter summarizing the changes we made in response to staff comments. We also did receive a couple other comments today from the engineering department, which we addressed, and I did send those back to Josh. I'm showing you those plans today, but they are identical to what you got before, except for a couple of, I guess, technical clarifications that Mr. King asked us to put in the plans. We did receive comments from the fire department and staff, and that's all reflected here in these plans. So I won't drag it out anymore, and I'll turn it back to Nancy or the chair.
Thank you. I think that's it for our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Peg, why don't we start with you on this one?
The one thing I noticed is that we don't have, and you just mentioned you just sent comments in, but I like to see approval from the engineering department. I noticed the water department, the fire department, the electrical department all responded, but no engineering department. Any reason for that, Josh?
Yeah, we did actually. I might have just not put in the folder. We did. It's been kind of a back and forth, as Scott alluded to in the recent days. I could add that to the folder if the group would like. There were a couple. Engineering did send another memo. Oh, today, and they.
I think all of engineering's comments were covered in the staff summary under the sewer and water and electrical section, just for what it's worth.
But, we're used to seeing an approval from the engineering department.
Sure.
The staff summary is wonderful, but,
Yep.
I like to see the actual,
Sure.
It's okay.
Yes, I could provide that. I could put that in the packet folder. There were a couple just, I think that engineering is, lack of a better term, all set. There were a couple conditions that, just that things that they want the applicant and the development team to do regarding the site plan. And the remaining kind of items are currently conditions that can be found in the draft site plan decision in the board packet.
Okay.
Josh, not to interrupt and through the chair, I'm happy to go through what's left. As I can walk through these quickly. Everything on here has to do with either the stormwater permit or the water and sewer permit, which come after this process. And I think, again, I mentioned there are 2 minor things in the plan. I can show you what those are, but I can walk you through these comments today. Again, we jumped on these right away. We got them in this afternoon. I'm appreciative of both Steve King and Josh getting those back to us so we could look at them. But most of these comments say no additional comments.
Okay. But I do, in years past, and our common practice was to receive emails from each of the departments explaining. It wasn't just a staff summary. We received actually the emails from the individual departments. I have a question. I think that rail trail sign is nice, but I have a question on the traffic, the circulation of traffic around the building. How much space is between the parking spaces, and I guess if you're looking from the back of the building, the right side of the building, it's so the jut out piece that curves around the building to go out to the front. Yes, right
Here?
through and right through on the corner.
Yeah.
How much space? Is that sufficient down the other corner?
Here.
Yeah.
This is, they're parallel spaces. Again, I was driving my truck around today. It looks a lot smaller on plan view here, but when you go out there, it's perfectly comfortable. You have about 14 feet. It's not to mention on the plan, but there's no parking in this area.
Okay.
So if you come around the corner, this is open, and then there's 2 spaces here on the ends that you pull into. So there's additional room here, whichever direction you go, to kind of get a longer sweep if you need it and come back around. Also, just to pull straight into these spaces. But again, I was kind of pulling in and out and playing with it myself today, and I wasn't having any issues. Nancy was there for a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually quite wide back there. We walked around it today again as well, and it looks narrower on the plan. That isn't always the case, but that is the case here. It actually looks narrower than what it is. There's plenty of room to maneuver around the building.
I was just wondering whether, at least for the parking in the back, from the front of the building back, we had one way in on the entrance down by the Danvers Electric. Is it Danvers Electric, the power station? Okay, and then going out the other way, at least for residential parking in the back, not necessarily so for the commercial. If that would just make it easier for people getting in and out of parking spaces.
I think my recommendation, if this were more commercial where you have a heavier turnover of unfamiliar operators, I think I'd be more inclined to put arrows in directional signage. With this particular use group, you can put them in, nobody's going to follow them. They're going to go with wherever's convenient, and typically people tend to get into a habit of parking in the same spot over time. It's just, my office out here, I park in the same space every day. I had like the new guy we hired parking, everybody's like, oh, don't park there, that's Scott's. I think it would make it look very commercial when we're trying to go to more of a residential neighborhood feel for this. And I don't think it's going to be an issue with this. And, if it ever were, again, it's something that, you could easily put down in the future. Let's say there's complaints coming in and all these things going on, which again, I can't fathom that happening. But putting striping down at that point would be an easy fix to it. But again, I don't think it's necessary for this use group.
This is if these are apartments, right?
Correct.
Not condos.
That's right. These are rentals.
Okay. There was a comment that was made in the planning staff comments about the dumpster. Where's the dumpster?
The dumpster is, it's right here. It's a fenced enclosure. It's a good one it's a chain link with the slats in it, so it's screened.
Okay.
So that's the existing location.
Okay. I guess that's it for now. I think the upper floor use for residential is great. And I'm glad we're taking advantage of the overlay that we put through a few years ago. I didn't realize the building was empty. I walk by it all the time. I did notice that the outside was kind of deteriorating a little bit. So I think it's an excellent reuse, and I'm pleased to see you doing that. But I may have more questions later. So I'll reserve my right to come back and ask you more questions.
Okay, Lou, why don't you go next?
All right.
Lou, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was just having a little difficulty unmuting myself, so I'm good.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So yeah, just a few questions I had, and with respect to and I think you will, I think this was alluded to in the presentation, in terms of that there is just in terms of a comparison of the what's the comparison, I guess, in terms of the current traffic flow, the number of trips for this proposed use versus what was there previously? Just in looking at the with respect to the special permit, just in terms of the effects to the neighborhood as well as traffic flow.
Yeah, in looking at the parking space demand, if this were all office space under the current parking requirements, my calculation came up with we'd need about 20 more parking spaces than we need for residential. So if you think about it that way, that 20 more parking spaces would be needed, and each of those cars goes in and out a few times during the day, then you're starting to look at maybe 40, 50 additional vehicle trips per day over what you might see for the residential. That's just kind of as best a comparison as I can give you. I think the use of these as 9 two-bedroom units as opposed to 3 floors of office space is going to have a lower trip generation and it does have a lower parking requirement.
Okay. To further that, just on the generation here and the use categories, apartments are typically the lowest residential parking traffic demand, actually at 2 spaces per unit. That's very high, which I think a lot of in the last 10 years or so, Danvers has done a lot of studies on that. I would expect a lot of people here would be more on the workforce side of the housing. They are probably working locally or and able to walk or bike to work. So the generator here is very low for apartments. And to Nancy's point, if this were all office just based on parking, you're looking at around 58 parking spaces, 58 to 60 parking spaces, versus, with the combined, you're only at 36 is demand just based on a parking, and that's a good test. Again, residential users, you're typically going to see them leaving in the morning, coming back in the evening, coincident with the daily, the daytime commute. Some of these use could be maybe evening jobs or night shifts, so you could see some variability in that. But the office is the complete opposite. So as residents are mostly leaving in the morning, your office and commercial tenants are coming in. So there's a good mix of uses here. I would expect to see some of this parking area vacant during times of the day when the residents are out and the offices are being used in the first floor. So I think it is a much lesser impact on both the parking, so cars needing to be parked on the property, and the trips that generates on and off the property.
Okay, so that all being said, has there and given that right now the number of spaces, that you're well within in terms of the required number of spaces, you have an excess. Has there been any consideration given to, even in terms of reducing, let's say, several of the spaces, even looking at the site plan right now, some of them that and again, it seems probably more compact on the plan than in reality, but even ones that seem to be like even towards the right side, close to the close to one of the entrances, whether or not that's been thought of to take a couple of spots out, do some landscaping in its place.
We didn't look at that option. Again, I think this is more of a an applicant consideration, but it's existing parking's there. I also think too with the we look at winter conditions as well. I'd like to have a little bit of buffer on the plan. Just if we have one of those bad years, there's a little extra storage or space to push snowbanks, so you have that extra breathing room. So again, we're not adding more pavement. We're kind of keeping that the same on this one. And I think that gives you a little bit of buffer too if the commercial first floor, that tenant use, maybe has a higher demand for parking. So it's giving you a little bit of buffer.
Is there any consideration in terms of with respect to parking? Is there any consideration in terms of that certain spaces will be designated for the commercial? Or commercial or office tenants, or at least during a certain part of day, and then certain ones will be for the residents?
That hasn't been a consideration at this point. Again, this is going to be a rental property managed by the Thompson companies, and I suppose there's certainly the opportunity as a rental project if a particular business tenant, for example, needed some dedicated parking spaces depending on their business. For example, that could be accommodated if needed.
Yeah.
Okay. Has there, and again, turning again to the, knowing that there is, we have proximity to the, the rail trail as well as across the street, across Holton Street. We have residences. Has there been any, have there been any consultations, or have you heard anything from any of the abutters?
No, we haven't. Again, the direct abutters are our municipal uses really on both sides. One
Sure.
is the electric on one side, and then you have the rail trail, and then you immediately have the DPW, town engineer office, and those things right there. We have some mixed residentials across the street. We have some mixed uses as far as multi-families and single families. We did not have any participation or concern when we appeared at the Board of Appeals, where all those folks also got notice with regard to the very small density variance we were looking for.
Got it. Okay. Okay. I mean, I don't think I have any further questions. Again, if something else comes up, I might come back as Peg. But again, I think that the additional residential units, as well as the fact that we have an affordable unit, I think that's terrific. And so I'm happy to see that in terms of this, in terms of the reuse of the property. The only, as I said, the only concern I do have is just with respect to sort of the traffic flow and parking. It doesn't seem like that does seem to be an issue. But again, if there is, again, I'm still coming back to if we do have more parking spots than we need, even if it's a matter of a couple, taking maybe a couple out and putting landscape, doing some landscaping or something, just again, so you see maybe a little less pavement, if that's, during the day, if indeed you have a lot of people who are, who will be, they won't be parked there, they won't be using the spots. So, but other than that, I don't have any further questions.
Okay. Tori, you're next.
I like this plan. Seems like a really good use of this building. I like seeing smaller rental units in a really walkable area. I don't have any concerns with this. I think it seems like it'll be an improvement on what's there.
Okay. And a lot of my questions were already asked by both Peg and Lou, and I like this plan as well. I think this is a great reuse. My question's more around the affordable unit. Can you just comment on what level of affordability are we talking about for that unit? What was the arrangement that was made with the appropriate town officials?
The arrangement was really a discussion with planning staff on the interpretation of what the bylaw requires for this special permit multifamily use, and it was determined that one unit is required, and then the $10,000 donation above that for the fractional unit, because it's generally one space per eight units. So that was it, and under the bylaw, the bylaw does dictate it's for those at 80% area median income, and that's what we would be doing here.
Okay, just for the benefit of the other folks who are watching, how does it get determined who gets that unit?
There is a process. We have to go through a process to have this unit accepted under the affordable housing list through the state. There is a process for making sure that the unit is properly designated, and then there is typically a third party handles a lottery application process for the selection of a tenant who would qualify for that unit, and then there is annual monitoring on that, and then if the unit becomes vacant again, then we would go through that process to fill the unit again, so that there is third-party oversight as far as who qualifies for the unit, and it's an economic qualification, and then making sure that that remains going forward.
Okay, that was helpful. Thank you. Josh, David, any comments from the public?
We don't have.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we did have one person who wanted to be invited to the meeting. I don't think I see Mr. Duggan on the participant list, but he was forwarded the link and he said he did receive it.
Yeah, Mr. Duggan is not participating, it doesn't look like, and we've received no other correspondence.
That's right.
Okay, that's helpful. Okay, so why don't I return to Peg and Lou? Do you guys have any additional questions that you'd like to ask?
I'm comfortable with the project. I think it's a very good project, as I said, and it's a good reuse, and I think it's timely. And I also I'm very glad about the affordable unit. I understand the process is lengthy. I hope that the state has shortened it a bit, but I understand it's quite a lengthy and difficult process. But I'm glad that we're requiring the unit there.
Okay. Lou, any further questions?
I guess the only thing I would just want to make sure, and I guess this is of I guess just picking up on Peg's point earlier with respect, and I guess it's a question for staff. Are we good in terms of any sort of engineering, comments or concerns? Because we want to make sure that those have all been addressed.
We did have a few conditions requested by the engineering division. Josh, if you could go through those, I would note that they may have been answered within the last few hours.
Yes. Let me just.
And would they be incorporated in any sort of proposed decision?
Yes, they are. They are in the site plan in the board packet. There's a site plan decision.
Yes.
Actually, I might be able to share it. I'm just trying to look for it. Let me. Yeah.
Did my screen share turn off?
Yes, it's off.
Okay. Yep.
Can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So those I was going to bring it up when we got to that point, but the first condition is just something that planning staff was going to discuss with the board and the applicant, and those conditions 2 through 5 were engineering conditions that potentially could be answered or resolved. It just the development team sent, this has been a fluid situation, and there's been a lot of correspondence, so they might not be still applicable, but early this morning, or actually this afternoon, they were. But number 1 is a planning staff comment, and then numbers 2 through 5 on the screen were engineering conditions.
Okay, got it. I think I understand, and there would obviously be no harm if ultimately this does get passed with those conditions. Then if the conditions are satisfied, then the conditions are satisfied.
Sure. Yes, and if they are, I would, we communicate with obviously town staff regularly. Before I filed the decision with the town clerk, I would certainly check in with engineering before I submitted it, just to ensure that all of these were applicable and there were no changes, that type of situation.
Mr. Chair, I do have, when it's appropriate, I would like to discuss one of these.
Sure.
And I would like to discuss another as well. I think we're probably talking about 2 different ones.
All right, so who, was that you, Lou? Tori, that wanted to have a discussion? Who,
that was Scott.
I think it was Scott Cameron.
Go ahead, Scott, go right ahead.
Josh, would you mind putting that back up?
Sure. Let me just try. Yes, sir.
Item 4, there was a recommendation by the town engineer to fix what he described as an offset joint. I've reviewed the video footage and I happen to disagree with that. I don't want to make it a condition because I don't think it needs to be done. It's not showing any indication of root intrusion or other things you're looking for when the joint has failed. It's simply the older pipes are slightly smaller than the larger pipes and there's a slight gap. There would be no fixing it. It would be a full replacement. And to quote the person inspecting the sewer line when our staff was there, he's never seen a sewer this old in such good condition. So I think in this case, that condition is something I need to talk to the town engineer about. We can work it out on a water sewer permit and make an appropriate decision at that time. I feel it does far more damage than good to go anywhere near this pipe. So I would request that condition be worded in a manner that gives us the ability to work that out with the town engineer.
I would note, excuse
I'm
me,
sorry,
Nancy.
go ahead.
Sorry, no, I just would note there was a lot of these that were specifically related to water and sewer permits that most likely would be handled during the water and sewer permit phase of the application.
Yeah.
Just for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Yes, and I would agree with that also. And I would note though that on the engineer's comments, this was listed as the engineering department recommends, not requires, and that's a distinction that I think is important from the engineering department because they often require things, but this one was listed specifically as recommends, and I think it can be handled between Scott and the town engineer in the water and sewer department when he's doing that permitting. The other item I had not seen before until Josh put this up was item number 1. Additional trees shall be planted along the frontage of the property. I was out there today, as Scott and I both mentioned before, and I counted them. There are 5 street trees along the frontage of the property, and they're mature trees, and we don't think that there's a need for any more of those plantings along there, and I would request that we not be required to put in any additional trees along the frontage.
Mr. Chair, is it okay to comment?
I think the staff has to comment, obviously, because there's a disconnect here.
Sure. So the comment from staff comes from just, it appeared the images and things that I was looking at that there are several trees along the frontage of the site, but there were several instances where there were gaps along the frontage. There were at least 2 to 3 trees that they had the tree balls, in the frontage, along the front of the property, that it looked like there had been trees there before and they had been cut down and removed in the past. So the comment is basically in replacing the trees that appeared that they were there at one time. That also is a landscaping that specific type of condition is is explicit language in our Section 4 landscaping requirements. So that was what it's pursuant to one of the section, the specific design standards. So that's the reason behind that condition, if that makes sense.
So let me go back to the board. Obviously, there's a couple loose ends that need to be resolved. What's the feedback, Peg? Let me start with you. Obviously, there's been comments about landscaping, and I just assume reading this decision that some of this stuff was talked about ahead of time, but obviously it wasn't. Do you have a feel around? I know you're concerned around getting something definitive from the engineering department was brought up. How about the landscaping issue here with the trees out front.
I didn't have a problem with the landscaping on site, but I think I have to agree with the planning staff regarding maybe, is it 2 or 3 trees? Do we have a number where there were gaps, Josh?
It's probably 2 to 3. It's probably 2 or 3. It's hard, I didn't get a chance to do a site visit today. But looking at street view pictures, it looked like there were trees there at one point. There's at least 2 sort of near if you're looking like at the front door, there's at least 2 there. That I thought would be an appropriate location, at least just to replace what had looked like it had been, installed or planted previously.
I do think the trees on the street is a good idea. I mean, we have a lot of concrete. There's not a lot of landscaping. And we've agreed that, we're keeping the footprint and the asphalt where it is. Nothing's being changed. And I think we've all agreed with that. So I don't think there would be a problem putting in more trees along the street, as I think you called it, streetscape, just to give a little bit of greenery. And in the gaps where trees were taken down before. Well, I shouldn't condition it on that. I think if there are gaps, they should be filled. And as far as the engineering, I am very concerned. I mean, we used to get either emails from fire department or electrical. An engineering department always sent us a memo, saying we recommend approval if these things are done, or we recommend approval, or we don't recommend approval. And I'm getting concerned because we don't see that. And I'd like to be able to see that again, where, Attorney McCann brought up the fact that there was a difference between recommend or require. And I think that's an important word for the planning board to know when they're coming to a decision, whether this is a requirement or a recommendation. So I am concerned about that, Mr. Chairman. I wish we had that in the package, and that concerns me.
Understood. Lou?
Yeah, I think I have to echo my concerns both with respect to the with respect to trees. I agree that I think that it could certainly benefit from some additional trees in that area. But when it comes to the engineering, I'm concerned. I share Peg's concern about in terms of before voting on. I'd prefer to have the full picture of what of engineering's perspective, particularly now, even that item that we were just talking about in terms of the joint connection, as found in the CCTV. I mean, the fact that it's the oldest sewer pipe in the best condition. I probably want to get a little more confirmation from engineering, and is this just a difference of opinion, or or what?
Okay. Tori?
Well, picking up on that topic, where is the line between our purview and the water and sewer permit?
I cover the applicant owns the sewer service. It's his service. The town has no ownership of that. The town, so from the building to the main, is the owner's responsibility. So the issue's been flagged to the owner. If he chooses to fix that issue, which I don't think is a good idea, he can do so. Again, I think that's why the wording on the letter is recommend, not must.
I think also, Mr. Chair, this is David. I would echo what Scott's saying and what I said before, in that a lot of this, almost the entirety of what was covered between Josh, the engineering division, and the applicant team, really relates to a water and sewer permit. It doesn't really, it's underground. It's not going to show up on a site plan per se for a reuse. They're not really laying out new utilities. So it's really just a service line to the building, but I understand where we're at. So I just wanted to clarify and echo what Scott said.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
okay, thank you. With regard to the trees, Again, I was seeing that tonight, and through the through texting, I've been able to communicate with John Thompson regarding this, and he is intending certainly to put a lot of money into the site and to upgrade the building where repairs are needed and all of that. And he will fill in the gaps along the streetscape with the street trees as recommended by planning staff, 2 or 3 trees wherever is necessary. So we would certainly take the condition of replacing 2 or installing 2 or 3 street trees to fill in the gaps along the streetscape. He will do that.
Okay. That's good news to me. I mean, to me, that tree was, and I don't disagree. I like the best practices we've established in the past, getting, confirmation from all the departments, so I certainly want to encourage that in the future. But I am sensitive to this applicant and all the good work they've done in the town, that we keep this process, if we can, going tonight. I mean, I do think that new news around the landscaping of the trees out front makes a big difference to me, at least as one member of the board. Now, the requirement is, correct me if I'm wrong, David or Josh, that we need a supermajority on a special permit, right? So there's four people voting.
So it does. You're not incorrect. It does get a little tricky this evening. This is the first time this has come up. The state has changed some laws behind the scenes that we don't have any control over necessarily. So we have four decisions in the packet because there's one special permit for office use on this site, one special permit being requested for the personal services use on this site. Those would both be supermajority. There's a change in the state level where a normal majority would allow passing the multifamily special permit. So with the recent housing choice legislation, the state has changed that from supermajority to majority.
Oh, good.
And then at the end of all of this, we have the minor modification for the site plan approval. So it's not an easy one, but this is unfortunately or fortunately what it's going to be like going forward for these ones.
Yeah, and the reality is, even though it's a simple majority, with 4 people voting, you still need 3. Right?
Correct. Yeah. So in this instance.
Yeah. So Nancy, do you want me to poll the board?
Yes, please. I certainly, in listening to the board, I'm certainly hopeful that we have board member, all of your support for this project. But yes, please, Mr. Chairman, if you could poll the board.
So Peg, are you comfortable moving forward with the new understanding that the landscaping is going to be done? I recognize that you don't have everything you want on the engineering front. So, I mean, so to me really is, do we defer, postpone this meeting to a future meeting and get that worked out? Or are we comfortable with what David has just described around the water permit or the water and sewer permit?
I'm comfortable with what David just described, but I will say in the future, I would like to see the memos from the departments, exactly what they're saying. And I'm very comfortable with the landscaping. So I don't want to hold this up tonight because we didn't receive the engineering report. But so I would vote for this tonight.
Lou?
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't want to hold this up as well. I'm satisfied on the landscaping, the tree piece. I mean, again, the engineering, I have some, I mean, I'm not sure if there's a way we can have something as a condition that, in essence, that the parties are able to agree with respect to, with engineering. But again, I also don't want to hold this up either. So, I would vote in favor.
Okay. Tori?
I agree with Peg. I'd like to see the original wording. Just in general going forward, I don't think we can hold the applicant accountable for that situation, and I will support these.
Yeah, and I'll, David and Josh, obviously, I feel the same way. I got accustomed to seeing those department So, let's make sure in the future that we get that. I am comfortable moving forward as well tonight.
So just really quick, this is David again, sorry. If that being the case, the draft decision that we showed you, we could simply state that the water and sewer issues, if there are any at all, would be worked out between the applicant team and the town staff. There was only one other minor condition about changing a straw wattle to a compost sock. We actually need to change our regulations to switch that. It's not the applicant's fault. It's our book is a little behind, but that was really it. And then the trees already discussed.
Okay, so I guess the first administrative, we got to close the public hearing, right? So
That's correct.
so
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question of staff?
sure.
David or Josh, doesn't engineering have the purview to enforce issues with the drainage in their permitting process?
They have purview over their own stormwater permit, which they issue. They also have sewer and water permits. So those are two. There's drainage and then there's sewer and water. Those are separate fields.
So if they feel like there's a problem with the sewer, if it's not suitable, then they do have a venue to address that.
In this specific instance, yes, what they're requesting could be handled at that permit phase.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Tori,
Yes.
Lou,
Yes.
Peg,
yes.
and I'm in favor as well. So can we turn to the site plan approval? Given the decision, is there a member that can read this in? Jim being the clerk usually does that task. Lou, do you got that decision in front of you that you can read it into the record?
I do. This is a minor modification to a previously approved site plan?
Yes.
That's right.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. At a hearing held on April 13th, 2021, the Danvers Planning Board voted to approve the minor modification to a previously approved site plan submitted by Thompson Companies, LLC, for property at 64 Holton Street, Assessors Map 50, Lot 193, shown on the following plan. Site plan entitled Site Plan Development Plan for 64 Holton Street, Danvers, Mass., prepared by the Morin Cameron Group, Inc., dated March 2nd, 2021, revised to April 8th, 2021, consisting of 5 sheets. The approval is subject to the following conditions. And this is where I need some additional help here. As it's currently written, it's 1 additional trees to be planted along the frontage of the property. And would we say 2 to 3 trees? Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that's, the applicant agreed to fill the gap in as appropriate. Nancy, what was exactly that the applicant agreed to do?
Fill in gaps along the street frontage with trees up to 3 trees, which should
Okay.
certainly do that.
So then going back then for minutes purposes, this approval is subject to following conditions. 1, additional fill-in gaps with additional trees along the streetscape up to 3 trees. 2, water and sewer issues would be worked out between town engineering and staff.
I think the applicant and town staff would cover anything we need to do.
Water and sewer issues would be worked out between applicant and town staff. Okay. And that would be all that I would have with respect to the conditions.
I think the other thing was just add a compost sock in place of a straw wattle on the plan.
Okay. 3, applicant shall use a compost sock instead of a straw wattle. Okay. This approval is granted with the following waivers from Section 4, Site Plan Approval of the Danvers Zoning Bylaw. 1, Section 4.8.6, Landscape Plan. Required a landscape plan. Requested no submission of a landscape plan. The existing landscaping is shown on the layout plan sheet 3 and no additional landscaping is proposed. 2, Section 4.8.7, Utility Plan, and Section 4.8.8, Grading and Drainage, stormwater, and plan. Required, a utility plan and a grading and drainage, stormwater, and plan. Requested, utilities and grading are shown on the same sheet. 3, Section 4.8.10, Building elevations. Required building elevations. Requested, no submission of building elevations. The applicant requests the submission of exterior photos in lieu of building elevations. No exterior building changes are proposed. 4, Section 4.8.11, Lighting Photometric Plan. Required, a lighting photometric plan. Requested, no submission of a lighting photometric plan. Existing lighting to remain and no additional lighting is proposed. 5, Section 4.10.2C(1), Site Landscaping, Specific Design Standards, Minimum Total Landscaping. Required, the minimum total square footage of landscaped area to ensure the above criteria are met is 30% of the total impervious surface of the proposed development. Requested, the existing landscape percentage is 13%. No additional landscaping is being proposed. 6, Section 4.10.2.C(2) and .c, Site Landscaping, Specific Design Standards, Parking Lot. Required, all parking lots shall be screened along the perimeter from abutting properties and the street. Within parking lots of 40 or more spaces, an area equivalent to at least 15% of the interior parking lot should be landscaped by use of landscape islands. The landscaped islands should be evenly distributed within the parking lot. Requested, no additional landscaping is being proposed. 7, Section 17.6.1.a, Parking/pedestrian access and bicycle guidelines. Required, parking areas should be located to the side and rear of the structure. No parking area should be designed such that parking is within the required or authorized front yard setback. Requested, existing parking is in front of the building and no proposed changes to parking lot. 8, Section 17.6.2, Building Design Guidelines. Required, buildings must meet the building design guideline of Section 17.6.2 A through G. Requested, existing building to remain and no exterior changes proposed. 9, Section 17.9.1, Community Impact Assessment. Required, the procedural criteria for approval of a special permit is through the submission of a site plan and community impact assessment. Requested, no submission of a community impact assessment. The applicant requests no submission of a community impact assessment because no changes are proposed to either the existing building, to the exterior of the existing building or the site itself. The general conditions as set forth therein 1 through 7. This approval is also subject to the attached list of general conditions approved by the Planning Board on January 27, 2004, amended through February 27, 2018, which are incorporated in the certificate of action by reference. Any approval of this site plan shall lapse within 2 years from the grant thereof if construction has not begun by such date except for good cause. John Farmer, Chair.
Nice job, Lou. All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, so we'll do the roll call vote. Peg,
Yes,
Tori,
Yes.
Lou,
Yes.
and I'm in favor of the site plan approval as well. So can we turn to the decision on the special permits? So clarification, do all these 3 special permits need a special vote, or can we consolidate these special permits under one vote?
Given that the voting requirements are different,
Okay,
you'd have to do them differently.
got it. Okay. So, Tori, do you have these special permit decisions in front of you, or
Yes.
do you mind taking the task of reading the conditions of the special permits? The first one would be, hold on, I want to make sure I get it right. Just lost my spot. How are they labeled, Josh? Just because,
Yeah,
no,
Let's see. Office, personal, retail establishment, and residential.
that's right.
okay, so why don't you start with So Tori, if you want to read them in as you see them, that'd be great. And if you
Okay.
just stop and then we'll do the vote.
Grant of special permit for 64 Holton Street, date of application, March 4th, 2021. Do I read through all the dates or?
No, you can just do the key paragraph, the
This is
certification.
to certify that at a meeting of the Danvers Planning Board held on April 13th, 2021, having been requested under section 17.8.3 of the zoning bylaw for property located at 64 Holton Street, Assessor's Map 50, Lot 193, voted to approve the request submitted by Thompson Companies LLC for a special permit to allow office 2,500 to 5,000 square feet. The special permit is associated with a mixed-use development as shown on the following plans. Site plan entitled Site Plan Development Plans for 64 Holton Street, Danvers, Mass, prepared by the Moore and Cameron Group, Inc., dated March 2nd, 2021, revised to April 8th, 2021, consisting of 5 sheets. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, this special permit decision shall be recorded at the Southern Essex Registry of Deeds. Planning Board finds that pursuant to section 30.3 of the zoning bylaw, conditions for special permits, all of the following conditions have been satisfied. The municipal water and sewer systems will not become overloaded by the proposed use. The public streets will not become overloaded by the proposed use. The value of other land and buildings will not be depreciated by the proposed use. The specific site is an appropriate location for the use or structures. The use developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. There will not be an undue nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. The proposed use or structures will be in harmony with the general purpose of the bylaw. Any approval of this special permit shall lapse within 3 years from the grant thereof if construction has not begun by such date except for good cause. John Farmer, Chairman.
Great. There's a motion. Is there a second on the special permit?
Second.
Okay, second by Peg. Roll call vote. We'll start with you, Lou.
Yes.
Peg,
Yes,
Tori,
Yes.
and I'm in favor of this special permit as well. So Tori, can you read the next special permit, please?
Grant of special permit for 64 Holton Street. This is to certify that at a meeting of the Danvers Planning Board held on April 13th, 2021, having been requested under section 17.8.7 of the zoning bylaw for property located at 64 Holton Street, Assessor's Map 50, Lot 193, voted to approve the request submitted by Thompson Companies LLC for a special permit to allow personal retail establishment 2,500 to 5,000 square feet. The special permit is associated with a mixed-use development as shown on the following plans. Site plan entitled Site Plan Development Plans for 64 Holton Street, Danvers, Mass, prepared by the Moore and Cameron Group, Inc., dated March 2nd, 2021, revised to April 8th, 2021, consisting of 5 sheets. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, this special permit decision shall be recorded at the Southern Essex Registry of Deeds. The Planning Board finds that pursuant to section 30.3 of the zoning bylaw, conditions for special permits, all of the following conditions have been satisfied for all 3 special permits. The municipal water and sewer systems will not become overloaded by the proposed use. The public streets will not become overloaded by the proposed use. The value of other land and buildings will not be depreciated by the proposed use. The specific site is an appropriate location for the use or structures. The use developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. There will not be an undue nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. The proposed use or structures will be in harmony with the general purpose of the bylaw. Any approval of this special permit shall lapse within 3 years from the grant thereof if construction has not begun by such date except for good cause. John Farmer, Chairman.
Great. Okay, there's a motion to approve this special permit. Is there a second?
Second.
Who was? I'm sorry. Just for the record.
That was me, Tori.
Yeah. You did the first. So Lou, Peg.
Oh, second.
Okay.
Second by Lou George.
All right. So let's do a roll call vote. Peg,
yes,
Lou,
Yes.
Tori,
Yes.
and I am going to approve it as well. So final special permit. Tori, one more.
grant of special permit for 64 Holton Street. This is to certify that at a meeting of the Danvers Planning Board held on April 13th, 2021, having been requested under section 17.8.21 of the zoning bylaw for property located at 64 Holton Street, Assessors Map 50, Lot 193, voted to approve the request submitted by Thompson Companies LLC for a special permit to allow residential or mixed use structure containing more than 4 units. The special permit is associated with a mixed-use development as shown on the following plans. Site plan entitled Site Plan Development Plans for 64 Holton Street, Danvers, Mass., prepared by the Moore and Cameron Group, Inc., dated March 2nd, 2021, revised to April 8th, 2021, consisting of 5 sheets. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, this special permit decision shall be recorded at the Southern Essex Registry of Deeds. Pursuant to section 30.2.16, multifamily affordability provision of the Danvers zoning bylaw, the applicant and/or property owner shall provide 1 affordable housing unit, which must be added to the state's subsidized housing inventory, or SHI, and a payment in lieu fee fractional unit of $10,000. The applicant and/or property owner shall hire a monitoring agent and provide a marketing plan to the town of Danvers prior to the issuance of a building permit. The applicant and/or property owner shall provide the $10,000 payment in lieu fee fractional unit to the Danvers Affordable Housing Trust, DAHT, prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, CO. The planning board finds that pursuant to section 30.3 of the zoning bylaw, conditions for special permits, all of the following conditions have been satisfied. The municipal water and sewer systems will not become overloaded by the proposed use. The public streets will not become overloaded by the proposed use. The value of other land and buildings will not be depreciated by the proposed use. The specific site is an appropriate location for the use or structures. The use developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. There will not be an undue nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. The proposed use or structures will be in harmony with the general purpose of the bylaw. Any approval of this special permit shall lapse within 3 years from the grant thereof, if construction has not begun by such date except for good cause. John Farmer, Chairman.
Great, thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second to approve the special permit?
Second,
Second by Peg. Roll call vote. Start with you, Lou.
Yes.
Peg,
yes.
Tori,
Yes.
and I'm in favor as well. Congratulations and good luck to the development team.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the board's time tonight.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone. Have a great night.
You too. So Jim's back. Let the minutes show that Jim's back. So the next item on the agenda is 74 Holton Street, request for site plan approval submitted by Danny Sakira for property at 74 Holton Street pursuant to section 4 of the zoning bylaws. Said property is in the industrial 1 in Tapley overlay zoning district. The applicant is proposing to modify the landscaping and parking. Assessors map 50, lot 155. The applicant has requested a continuance to the April 27th meeting. I just want to ask, I don't have a problem with the continuance, but I do want to ask the staff, this has been continued for a while. Can we have some color of what's going on?
Sure. So the gentleman who purchased this property, he is a contractor. He is trying to flip this building or convert this building. It appears we received a really good site plan set at the initial application. I just think that this individual he's sort of busy in the day-to-day workings of his occupation, and then he kind of also keeps kind of changing his mind a little bit about which direction he's trying to do the project. You know, at the beginning in January and February, we were in constant contact with him, and there was ideas about, he was constantly changing his mind if he wants to do residential or commercial or both or a mix. And so there's a variety of factors. I think that at this point, well, the public here, it's continued. We can't really get into it, but I'm hoping, I've been working with him or trying to work with him and the engineer to we really just need a modified plan that shows sort of a new footprint of the building that he's proposing, and then I think we're in a good place. So I don't know what else to say, since we can't really,
Yeah, I
you're not
think
gonna
just
open the
I think just to
public hearing.
summarize, the plan's changed a couple times, so we're just trying to hammer home what is it he actually wants to do.
Okay, that's helpful.
Can
Is
we
that-
ask which building 74 Holton is?
It's one. Is it one down from Daniela's, Josh?
It's the first building to the left of Daniela's.
Okay,
It's a really, really small building. You probably drive by it and don't even notice it. It's a small white
Okay.
building.
It previously had a small commercial space on the first floor. He's been doing a lot of, well, yeah, he's trying to change the property in a manner that to what he's trying to do. So
there are a couple of other buildings down there that I'd like to see something happen. I was just wondering if it was one of those, so.
it might be.
No, it isn't. Nope.
Yeah, I don't think it's one of those.
No, it's not.
Okay, any other discussion on the request to continue? If not, can I have a motion to accept the continuance to the April 27th meeting?
I move that we, I forgot what I was going to say. I move that we accept the continuance of 74 Holton Street to April 27th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jim? Okay, roll call vote. Tori?
Yes.
Lou?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Peg?
Yes.
And I support the continuance as well. So the last things we have is we have a couple minutes of prior meeting. The first one is the October 27th, 2020 minutes. Is there any comments around that? And I do have one question personally. It seems like on 20 Locust Street, we were asking questions about the status of leasing, and we were expecting some leasing. It doesn't seem like there's much leasing going on over there. Does the staff have any feedback on that?
So I know he has leased residential units. There's cars out there. There's people living in the upstairs.
Okay.
The commercial, as everything right now is not, I don't think, going as he's planned. Just it's geared for a restaurant and retail space, and where we're at right now, it's highly unlikely, I think, that he's going to get a lease soon.
John, just for whatever it's worth, anecdotally, we were on a site visitor walk for some other property or project, and it was during the day, but there was probably maybe 10 to 12 cars in the parking lot at 11, just as like a sort of back of a napkin indicator of how many people, it was during the day. Not sure people's occupations and what they're doing, but just as an indicator of how many people might be living in there potentially.
As we all know, this was one of the first ones, not before all the rezoning took place, but this is the one that we're all hoping to see residents downtown, right? I mean, that's kind of the vision. So any other comments or concerns about the minutes of the October 27th, 2020 meeting? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the minutes as written?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Peg?
Yes.
Tori?
Yes.
Lou?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And I support the minutes as written as well. Okay, the last item is the minutes of January 26, 2021. Any discussions on the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, from Peg, roll call vote. Tori?
Yes.
Lou?
Yes.
Peg?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And I support the minutes as written. Is there any other matters the staff wants to bring up to the board?
I don't think at this time we have any anticipated future dates that are out of the ordinary, and until the fall, there's not much going on.
Okay. Given that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
All in
Second,
favor? Second. All right. Stay
Aye.
safe, everyone. Thanks for all your good
Yes.
work.
thank
Okay.
you.
You too.
Bye,
Thanks, John.
everyone.
Yeah.
Have a good night, everyone.